Why? Because I'm Batman. And today, we're taking a look at one of the greatest things to ever have my name on it. Batman, The Dark Knight Returns. Part 1 and Part 2. Okay, I'm not doing this the whole time. Yeah, hi, it's Jackson Small Animation Station. What, did the mask actually fool you? Highly doubtful, but you know what? It worked for the bit. Welcome to DCLi, welcome to the finale of DCLi, and welcome to what I would go so far as to call one of the greatest comic book movies of all time. Batman The Dark Knight Returns, based on the spectacular Frank Miller comic book of the same name. This movie is outstanding in every single way, shape, and form. So we are absolutely doing full in-depth analysis. We are going to talk about pretty much every single part of the movie, so if you don't want to be spoiled, don't watch this review. But if you've already seen it, and you don't mind being, or you don't mind being spoiled, let's press onward, because we're doing full deep dive analysis on both parts. Yep, not just one, part 2 as well. Because I want to make this DCLi finale as big, grand, and epic as it possibly could be. And what better way to do that than to praise such a phenomenal, fantastic, outstanding movie. So, let's not waste any time and dive right in. Do I have any gripes with this movie at all? No. Well, let's start with part 1. Part 1, no gripes. This is pretty much just going to be me praising every single thing about both of these movies, so yeah. No negativity for this one, which is good for me because I don't feel like screaming, so without further ado, let's start where we always start, with our voice cast. And don't worry, when we get to part 2, I will try to skim over the ones that are just crossovers from the previous part and just talk about the new ones. So let's start with Peter Weller as Batman. Yeah, I believe this guy also played RoboCop, if I'm not mistaken. Let me look here. Yeah, RoboCop. Batman's voiced by friggin' RoboCop. And he does such a phenomenal job as both Bruce Wayne and Batman. As this older, grizzled, retired Bruce Wayne, but then comes out of retirement and becomes probably the most ruthless, vicious, just absolutely brutal Batman of any incarnation, period. Because this Batman is done pulling his punches. Yes, he still doesn't kill, but that doesn't mean he's not gonna give them a freaking beating to remember. Not to mention all the haunting monologues he has throughout the movie, how a lot like Harvey Dent in this movie is fighting against the two different personalities in his head, Bruce is trying to fight back against the Batman personality that haunts his nightmares. So, yeah, it's so freaking good. I have so many great lines to quote when we get there. So yeah, Peter Weller, freaking RoboCop, does an amazing job as Batman. Arguably, he's even better in part 2. Then we have Ariel Winter as Robin. In this case, it is a female Robin, and a very good one at that. She is definitely very much a side character in this first part, but in the second part she has a lot more focus and gets to do more, so that's fine. But as she is here, she's a really likable character, a really cool differentiation on Robin, and not to mention some of the schemes that she pulls off are really impressive. Like the one that Batman comes up with, where she dresses up as one of the mutants and gets them all to gather in this one place so he can humiliate the leader right in front of them. Like, that is freaking brilliant. Then we have David Selby as Commissioner Gordon, who is on his way out. He's about to retire, but he does this one last thing for Batman. And not only that, he knows that Bruce Wayne is Batman now, which adds a completely new, fascinating dynamic to their partnership. It's really cool to see throughout the movie, and Gordon does an amazing job in this movie. Like, seriously. David Selby, amazing Commissioner Gordon. I don't like him more than Bryan Cranston in Batman Year One, but he's still really good. Then we have Wade Williams as Harvey Dent. Well, speaking of Harvey Dent, in this movie, he's pretty fascinating. Like, it seems like he's reformed. The whole bad half of his face has been entirely reconstructed, and it looks like he's back to, being an actual citizen of society. But it turns out he's actually giving into the other personality. As Batman finds out later when he's taking out a group of thugs and he finds Harvey's old coin. And this time, both sides are scratched. And then when Batman actually meets up with Harvey later in the warehouse, which I'll talk about later, it's a phenomenal scene. They start to wonder why Harvey isn't taking off his bandages. And it turns out it's not physical horror. He's not hurting himself, like, scratching all the Reformation skin off his face, no. But in this one, instead, it is psychological horror. He still thinks he is the same ugly other side that he always, that his one personality always hated. And it's just super fascinating to see this kind of dynamic out of Harvey. Unfortunately, he's very much a side character and doesn't really get to do a whole lot, but trust me, he's freaking brilliant in this movie. Then we have Carlos Alazraqui back again, this time as Hernando. He's pretty good, very much a side role. D. Bradley Baker's back again as Dawn. He's pretty good. Paget, apologies for mispronouncing your name. Paget Brewster as Lana Lang, one of Batman's most vocal supporters, and most of the time she's in this debate room with this other guy who's Harvey's psychologist who is completely against Batman. And she's okay. I didn't really care about her as a character, but I did like that she was, defending Batman and his actions. Then there's Maria Canals Barrera as Ellen Yindel. She's okay. Kathy Cavadini as Joni is okay. Townsend Coleman's pretty good. Greg Griffin's back again as Carlo the Anchor. It's Greg Griffin. I don't need to say more. Richard Doyle as the mayor is really good. Greg Eagles as Mackey's really good. Michael Emerson as Joker, who we're going to talk more about when we get to part 2. I'm just going to mention him here, where he only has a few speaking lines at the very end of the movie. But in this first part, for the most part, he's catatonic. Because Batman's gone, he's pretty much, lost all will to live. But at the end of the movie, when he finds out that Batman really has returned, he wakes up out of his catatonic state, and you see that devilish evil grin. And something's about to go down. We'll talk more about it in part 2, but trust me when I say, it's probably one of their most gruesome, bloody, vicious bouts they've had in the entire Batman history. Then Michael Jackson, nope, not the Michael Jackson is the singer. Michael Jackson is the voice actor we talked about previously in other DC projects, is Alfred in this one. He's pretty good. Alfred doesn't really get to do a whole lot, but he's pretty good. Danny Jacobs as Merkel's pretty good. Maurice LaMarche, another legendary voice actor. This time, he's the voice of Dr. Willing, who is Harvey's psychologist and is also the anti-Batman side of the argument that's going on the news. And he does a great job in the movie. Unfortunately, his character doesn't really get to do a ton, but he does a great job. And then we have Yuri Lowenthal as one of the sons of Batman. I think he's more well known for playing Spider-Man in a bunch of fan projects. Let me think. Oh, no. He's the voice of Spider-Man in the Insomniac universe. So, yeah. One of the voice actors of Spider-Man is in this movie, and he gets a very small role, but it's really, really good. So, yeah, the voice cast here is great. I'll go more into Joker specifically later on, and not to mention they also bring in Superman. So, yeah, we'll talk more about that in part 2. And then for the writers, they brought back Frank Miller to help write the script, as well as bringing in Klaus Janson. They did an amazing job translating the workings of the original comic book to a feature film script. It's so well done in this movie. Then moving on, let's talk about the animation. My freaking goodness, this animation is probably the best I've seen in any Batman movie to date, period. It is spectacular animation. It is very faithful to the art style of the comic books, but still looks great in motion. And not to mention, this movie's animation sometimes can be brutal. Like, you see batarangs go through hands, you see blood, you see violence, you see bones breaking. Like, the animation does an amazing job showing the brutality of this more grizzled Batman, and I think it does an amazing job. Does an amazing job. So yeah, all of that is fantastic. Now let's move on to the plot. And this plot is really friggin' good. So I'm going to read off this long synopsis off of IMDb first, and then I'll talk more about certain scenes. And then after that, I'll go into the quotes. I'll quote a bunch of my favorite lines from the movie. Don't worry, it won't be all of them. And then it'll be, well, overall thoughts and see it for part 2. Because I'm not giving a final verdict on just one part when I'm reviewing both of them together. Like I said, this may or may not be a 1 hour long review. So if you're still here, that's your own fault. Sorry, there's a fly in my face. Yeah, let's read off the synopsis and then I'll get more into it in a minute. In a dystopian near-future version of Gotham City, 55-year-old Bruce Wayne has retired from being Batman following the death of Jason Todd. You know, pretty much using the same basic source material from Batman Under the Red Hood, but adapting it in a completely different way. Criminals now run amok, and the city is constantly terrorized by a gang known as the Mutants. Bruce Wayne is now something of a recluse, despite his continuous philanthropic, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, I'm terrible at spelling things, endeavors and friendship with Commissioner James Gordon, who now knows Bruce's former identity as Batman. Yeah, like I said, it adds a completely new layer of fascination to their dynamic throughout the movie, now that Gordon knows who Batman truly is. The escalating brutality of the mutants prompts Bruce to take up the mantle of Batman once again, but the public opinion over Batman and his methods are sharply divided. While the public generally approve of Batman's return, richer and more powerful people such as the unnamed mayor of Gotham City and Dr. Bartholomew Wolper, head psychiatrist at Arkham Asylum, brand Batman as a fascist. Bruce's old friend Harvey Dent, formerly Two-Face, undergoes plastic surgery and his face is repaired, but at the high cost of eradicating Dent's good side forever. Batman confronts Two-Face and stops him from holding the city ransom with a bomb. Inspired by Batman's actions, 13-year-old Carrie Kelly, who he also saves earlier in the movie, by the way, buys herself a Robin costume and searches for Batman to aid him. She finds him at the city dump where the mutant gang is gathering. On board a tank-like Batmobile, Batman defeats most of the gang, shooting them with rubber bullets, before confronting the mutant leader in hand-to-hand combat where he is overpowered, but Kelly distracts the leader long enough for Batman to subdue him. At first I thought he killed him because he sprays this stuff all over his face and it looked like he's suffocating. Like, I really thought that was his death, and I'm kind of glad it isn't because that death kind of sucks, but yeah, he subdues him. Where? She then rescues the injured Batman and tends to his wounds as the vehicle drives towards the Batcave. Once home, Batman takes Carrie on as the new Robin, despite the objections of his butler, Alfred. Batman instructs Carrie to disguise herself as a mutant and spread the word of a meeting at Gotham Pipe, while Batman arranges the mutant's leader escape from prison. In other words, he arranges their final meetup. The mayor's attempts to negotiate with the mutant leader in his cell, but the mutant leader brutally mauls him to death. And you see the body, and there is so much blood. Like, whoa. Yeah, if you have a sensitivity to high amounts of blood and gore, don't watch this movie or you're going to puke. Because this may be a PG-13, but it is barely a PG-13. It's borderline R. So where are we? Gordon then accidentally allows the leader out of his cell. Well, accidentally. And he makes his way through the ventilation system leading to Gotham Pipe, where he finds his entire army waiting. Batman appears and engages the mutant leader in battle once again. Only this time, Batman manages to outsmart the leader's moves and eventually subdue him, breaking several of his bones in front of his army and then beating him to death. That part is in the synopsis, I'm just adding it here because he's very clearly dead. Batman literally breaks all his limbs and then beats him to death. Mercilessly. Like, that is an awesome villain death. It's not super gory, but it's still brutal. Also, another cool thing I want to point out with this movie, and I think this carries into part 2 as well, where every time there's a punch thrown by Batman or one of the mutants or anything like that, the camera shakes. And I don't mean like shaky cam Michael Bay garbage. I mean like it vibrates for a split second to really feel the impact of that hit. Even if it's not a super brutal hit, you still get the sense of the impact because the camera just vibrates for a split second and it adds to the brutality. And it's so freaking cool. Accepting defeat, the mutants disband into smaller gangs. One game in particular operates under the name of the Sons of Batman, where they work to purge Gotham of crime and questionable methods. Batman's return and victory over the mutants becomes public news following the death of the mayor. Deputy Mayor Stevenson has been sworn in as the new mayor of Gotham City. Nearing retirement, Gordon meets with his successor, Police Captain Ellen Yindel, who also voices her doubts over Batman's methods. Meanwhile, in Arkham, a catatonic patient sees a report about Batman on the news and gives off a disturbing grin. Yeah, it's Joker. I'm not even going to try to dance around that fact. It's literally Joker. So, yeah, there's that. That's pretty much the basic synopsis, but that's not even scratching the surface of how smart, clever, violent, gritty, adult, dark, and just all-around masterfully crafted this story is. Even in this first part, even though we don't have the Superman-Batman fight yet, even though we don't have Batman taking it to the streets yet, like, with his actual Sons of Batman. Yeah, that happens. I'll talk more about that in part 2. But, yeah, it's not even scratching the surface. It is a fantastic story, and even though it's just the first part, it's still a lot of fun to watch. It is still a fantastic, excellent watch that you guys need to check out. Seriously, I cannot recommend both these parts highly enough. Yes, it is about 2.5 hours long when you combine them together, which, yes, is pretty long for a DC animated movie, but it works. It works for the story they're trying to tell, and splitting it off to 2 parts makes a lot of sense, because there's so much content in The Dark Knight Returns by itself as a comic book, that trying to do it all in one movie, it wouldn't have worked. Alright, I think next, do I want to go to quotes or do I want to go to trivia? Here we go. Dark Knight Returns Deluxe Edition, this version combines both parts into a single 148-minute movie. Yeah, it's over 2 hours long. And I do appreciate that they made a combined version, because, I don't know, it helps the story flow a bit more naturally. Just my opinion. I think that's a really cool release. We'll do trivia next. We'll do some trivia. Yeah, it's only 18 minutes. We can afford some trivia. The red phone that the Commissioner uses to contact Batman has the same design and beeping tone as the one from the 1960s show. I caught that one as well. That's a really cool little Easter egg. In the early 2000s, the Hughes brothers were offered the chance to direct a live-action adaptation of Dark Knight Returns, but the project never materialized. They wanted Clint Eastwood to play Batman. Eastwood would have then been in his early 70s, whereas in the comic book, Batman is 55. Yeah, I honestly wouldn't have minded a grittier Clint Eastwood portrayal of live-action Batman. I mean, yeah. I'm just going to leave it at that. When Batman is shot while pursuing Two-Face, he is hit in the chest. In the book, this reveals a section of armor beneath the bat symbol, and speaking to himself, he says this is why he has a bright yellow target on his chest, to give snipers something to aim at instead of more vulnerable places. Yeah, we don't see any of that armor in the movie, but it's pretty much stated without needing to be said. Really cool little detail. In the scene where Commissioner James Gordon is picking up nicotine gum in the convenience store before killing the mutant gang member that tries to kill him, there are other DC comic titles on the magazine racks. One's featured notably are Swamp Thing, Watchmen, V for Vendetta, and Sandman. All but Sandman have received a movie treatment. It has since been adapted as a Netflix television series, and 2 of those 3 are from Frank Miller himself. Yeah, that's a nice little Easter egg to pay homage to the creator by having two of his comic books in this comic book store during this scene. Really clever. For children's marketing reasons, the scene where Commissioner Gordon is smoking a cigar in the graphic novel is replaced with gum. Commissioner Gordon actually explains this, stating, "My wife made me quit the cigars." Yeah, there was a little bit of censorship, but it's not that bad, and it leads to a funny line, so I'll give it a pass. The scene where Batman pulls the mutant through the wall is similar, if not identical, to the scene where RoboCop pulls the gunman through the wall in RoboCop. Both are played by Peter Weller. Frank Miller also wrote for both RoboCop and Dark Knight. Oh, I actually didn't know Frank Miller wrote the RoboCop script. That's actually really cool. I didn't even notice that. Although Frank Miller's graphic novel The Dark Knight Returns was originally adapted into two parts, Warner Home Video re-edited them into a single direct-to-video animated feature, Dark Knight Returns. I already talked about that. Bruno is modeled after Bridget Nielsen, whoever that is. The bat signal is not projected against the clouds, but against the side of a high-rise building. When Batman actor Adam West died in 2017, a bat signal was projected on the tower of Los Angeles City Hall. That's a nice little way to pay homage to one of the first Batmen on screen. When the young mutant walks into the convenience store before he gets into a firefight with Commissioner Gordon, you can see the graphic novel of Sandman's not. We already talked about that. Oh yeah, and apparently, not Frank Miller, Alan Moore, sorry. Moving on. In Frank Miller's Batman world, superheroes had become a problem for the government. Superman, who cooperated with the government, was told that his high-profile stance was essentially upstaging the government, so stepped out of the public eye and continued to serve, but while intentionally avoiding exposure. As the Dark Knight series took place in the 80s, obvious from the Reagan presidency, the radical fashions, etc., the shift towards conservatism is reflected in the attitudes of the people. Superman became an agent of conservatism while Batman, who was the symbol of rebellion against restraint, retired from crime fighting. This divergence between the two superheroes was later reflected in Dawn of Justice, and it was also seen on the Marvel side in Civil War. Yeah, it's a fascinating thing that's been overdone. As Bruce's car flips over during the race car scene, a car is seen with the colors and markings of the Mach 5 from Speed. I didn't even catch that. I literally just saw this movie not even 2 months ago, and surprised I didn't catch something. Alright, one last fact, then we're going to go into the quotes. It is mentioned to Bruce Wayne at the end of the film that he finally does work in the shadows. It's a joke that despite Batman being a hidden figure, he is one of the most well-known heroes and is often seen right out in the open. This is a polite shot at the character. Yeah, it's not done to insult Batman, it's just a cheeky little joke, so I'm not gonna get mad about that. Oh wait, there's a goof, hold on. The mutant leader bites Batman's shoulder from behind, but the bite wounds seen later are curved like they would be if the bite came from the front. Yeah, there's always going to be animation errors in these direct-to-DVD movies, it's just inevitable. Okay, let's finish off with... We'll go with 5 quotes. Alright, first one I gotta do is this one. This one right here. This is the one when Batman has his rematch with the mutant leader and beats him to death. "You're finished, old man. You don't get it, son. This isn't a mud hole. It's an operating table, and I'm the surgeon." Some of these lines are good. Like, so freaking good, man. Some of these lines are so good. Alright, this one when Batman is interrogating a gang. "You're under arrest, mister. You just crippled that man. He's young. He'll walk again." And then he looks over to the cop, to the guy he's interrogating, Femur. "But you'll stay scared, won't you, punk?" Oh, yeah, this one I gotta do right here. This is the quote from when Batman and Harvey Dent have their final confrontation in a building. "Cut it out. Just look at me and have your laugh. Get it over with. At least both sides match now, right? Look at me and have your laugh. Who are we kidding? They couldn't fix me. Nothing can change what I am. You and me both." Mm. These lines are so good. Let me find another quote here. This one. This is after the race. This is after the little race that Bruce is having at this speedway, and he pushes his car too hard and almost dies in a fire explosion. But he ejects at the last second, and then he meets up with Gordon. That was some stunt work you pulled at the racetrack. Keeps the blood flowing, so long as most of it stays inside you. Worried about me? Let's just say I'm glad you survived Batman's retirement, and I was hoping you'd keep it that way. Yeah. Okay, two more. Or have I done four? I've done four. Okay, I'll do one more. Yes. This one. This is the one when Batman first confronts the mutants at the dump in his giant tank version of a Batmobile. And the mutant leader is giving a speech to his brethren. They call us a gang. They think we just noisy kids. Only when they die by our hands will they know Gotham City belongs to the mutants. Take the guns, take the bombs, storm police headquarters, and kill and kill. Bring me the head of the old man Gordon. I will carry it through the streets. And the Batman who thinks he can mess with us, I will tear him limb from limb. And then Batman shows up in the Bat Tank. I'm just going to call it a Bat Tank. It's a Bat Tank, not a Batmobile. There's a difference. Mutants, surrender now or be destroyed. And then they open fire on him, and this is his remark. Don't even wait for an order. Kids today, no respect. And he says that with a smile. These lines are so good. So yeah, I've done trivia, I've done quotes, I talked about the voice acting, I talked about the story. I've pretty much talked about everything I can with part one. And the point is, with this review, is to tell you that this first part is absolutely fantastic. And the first part of what's only going to be even better in the second part of this story. How does the second part play out? Well, stick around and I'll tell you. I gotta go rewatch it first, but yeah. Stick around and I'll tell you all about it. Welcome back. Now it's time to talk about part two and my thoughts on both of these movies overall together as one single movie. Shall we? So, let's start with the voice cast once again. The returning ones, and I'm not gonna elaborate on much. Peter Weller, Ariel Winter, David Selby, Carlos Alazraqui, D. Bradley Baker, Paget Brewster, Maria Canales-Barrera, Townsend Coleman, Greg Griffin, Greg Eagles, Michael Jackson, Maurice LaMarche, and Yuri Lowenthal. They all return to the same roles that they played in the last one. Now the ones I want to talk more about, specifically with this second installment. Let's start with Michael Emerson's Joker. He was the big cliffhanger of the first one, and now here we get to see him in his glory. And this is a great Joker. This is the no-holds-barred, lost his mind, just all restrictions out the window Joker. This guy is vicious, this guy is brutal, this guy is evil, and this guy is demented beyond belief. But, like most of the good Jokers, he's also surprisingly funny. So, yeah, Michael Emerson's Joker is great here, especially that final haunting monologue he gives to Batman right before he dies. And his death is amazing, too. We're going to talk about that later. Then, after that, we have Mark Valley as Superman. And he's okay. Like, Superman's definitely very much a side character in this, but I do buy his kind of sort of not really friendship with Bruce, and their whole big final battle at the end is great. So yeah, Mark Valley is okay as Superman, but I definitely prefer Tim Daly. That's just my personal taste. Then there's Robert Atkins Downs as Oliver Queen. Yes, Green Arrow. And this Green Arrow is chiseled. He's just as chiseled and gritty as Batman is. Superman having taken his freaking arm. Like, oh man, it is brutal. It is brutal what he went through. And he plays a pivotal part in this movie, especially in the final battle. I like this Oliver Queen. I like this more gritty version of him, and he works well with Bruce Wayne's Batman. So, well, with this version's Batman. So, yeah, he does a really good job here. And then I think the only other new one is Greg Eagles as Ben Derek. He's fine. He doesn't do a whole lot, but he's fine. So yeah, voice cast is still great here, and the animation's still great here as well. This one's arguably even better because this one gets pretty friggin' bloody. Like, if you thought the first part was gory, you have no idea what you're gonna witness in this one. Especially in the Joker chase, which is one of the bloodiest, brutalest, most violent moments I think I've seen in any Batman movie to date. Like, it is that vicious. Like, I am legit surprised that this movie's not R-rated because of how brutal Joker's death was. And yeah, we're going to talk all about that because that's amazing. And of course, the awesome animation, the great story, everything else is still here. So, yeah, everything great from that first part is carrying over to the second part, but with the added bonus of Joker and his ultimate demise and the final battle with Superman that was absolutely disrespected in Dawn of Justice. So, yeah. And of course, the animation is still fantastic. Let's not forget about that. Okay, let's go ahead and go to the plot synopsis. Feeling remorse for his past, Joker convinces Wolper to take him on a talk show to tell his story. He makes plans for his escape with an old henchman, who supplies him with mind-controlling lipstick. Meanwhile, Superman, who works as a government operative in exchange for being allowed to covertly help people, is asked by the president to help Batman's vigilante activities. And I believe in this one, it's... Which president was it? Shoot. It said in the last movie, and now I'm losing my train of thought. I don't know. The president. Framing these events is a growing hostility between the USA and the Soviet Union over possessions of the island of Corto Maltese. As Batman's continued presence humiliates the national authorities, Yindel becomes commissioner and orders Batman's arrest, and Superman warns Batman that the government will not tolerate him much longer. Joker makes his talk show appearance on David Endocrine's show, I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that right, as Batman fights with the GCPD on the studio roof. While they fight, Joker kills Wolper, in a pretty brutal way, I might add. He's the only person in the theater that dies that's not by laughing gas. Joker breaks open a mug and slices his throat open. Like, it's bloody. You don't get to see the throat slit because this is still PG-13, but you see the blood. You see the blood and you see the body afterwards. It's pretty freaking gruesome. Anyway, he kills Wolper, gasses everyone in the room, studio to death with his classic toxic laughing gas, and escapes. He finds Selina Kyle, yes, Selina Kyle is in this movie, and uses one of her escorts and his lipstick to take control of a congressional representative, who calls for a nuclear strike on the Soviets before falling to his death. Batman's investigation leads him to Selina, who he finds bound and dressed like Wonder Woman. Yeah, I'm not going to try to explain that one either. Kelly notices cotton candy on the floor and Batman deduces that Joker is at the fairgrounds, because of course he is. There, Kelly accidentally kills Joker's henchman while Batman pursues the Joker, who indiscriminately guns down dozens of people. As Batman corners a wounded and partially blind Joker, because Batman put a friggin' batarang through his eye. Yeah, it's as brutal and amazing as it sounds. He admits to feeling responsible for every murder Joker has committed and intends to stop him permanently. In the ensuing fight, Joker stabs Batman repeatedly, and Batman breaks Joker's neck in front of witnesses, as in the GCPD. But that's not entirely true. He almost breaks his entire neck, but then Joker still has enough to get one last laugh in, seeing that he's finally driven Batman to kill. And with that, he pretty much just says he won. And in a way, he did win, because now he's driven Batman to the other side, to cross that line he never wanted to cross, to kill somebody. And with that, Joker tells him, "See you in hell," and with one last laugh, he finishes breaking his own neck. Oh, and the brutality doesn't stop there either. As Batman's trying to flee the GCPD, who are still chasing him down, he spits on the body and then sets it on fire. And we see the burning skeleton underneath, which is still smiling. It is that creepy, bone-chilling stuff that these kind of Batman comics do so well, and it's adapted so well to the screen. Seriously, amazing. The GCPD arrive and Batman, bleeding profusely, fights his way to Kelly and escapes. After Superman deflects a Soviet Union nuclear missile, he is hit with a blast and badly injured. And yeah, we see like this very decrepit looking Superman. It's some creepy imagery. But I love creepy imagery, so I think it's amazing. The detonation creates an electromagnetic pulse that wipes out all electrical equipment in the United States and causes a nuclear winter. As the city descends into chaos, Batman, Kelly, and Gordon rally the sons of Batman and the citizens of Gotham to restore order, and Yindel accepts that Batman has become too powerful to take down. So they stop chasing him. Took her long enough. While the rest of the powerless U.S. is overrun with crime, Gotham becomes the safest city in America, embarrassing the president's administration and prompting them to send Superman to finally stop Batman. Which I don't know why they would do that, because if it's the safest city in America, isn't that a good thing? I don't know, maybe you want to protect your public egos. I don't know. Batman and Superman agreed to meet in Crime Alley, wearing a powerful exo-frame supported by Kelly and fellow superhero Oliver Queen, aka Green Arrow, who has a vendetta against Superman because, again, Superman took his freaking arm off. Batman fights Superman, using various tactics to make the fight even. When Superman gains the advantage, Queen hits him with an arrow made that releases kryptonite dust in his face. Superman inhales the dust, which works its way through his system. His power gone, Batman defeats Superman and claims that he intentionally made the kryptonite weak to defeat Superman without killing him. Because in his own words, he wants him to remember the one man who beat him. He didn't want to kill him, he just wants him to remember the one man who was able to defeat him. That's Batman's BAAF right there. I'm not going to say the actual words because it's technically still a family-friendly channel. I don't want to get flagged. Batman then apparently dies of a heart attack, while Wayne Manor self-destructs and Alfred dies of a stroke. In the aftermath, the world learns that Bruce was Batman, all of his secrets are destroyed with the manor, and his finances completely disappear. As Superman leaves Wayne's funeral, he gives Kelly a knowing wink after hearing a faint heartbeat coming from Bruce's coffin. In underground caves, Bruce is revealed to have faked his death, and makes preparations to continue his mission more discreetly, allied with Kelly, Queen, and his many followers. Yeah. Needless to say, it's a great second part to a great story, and it ends on a very satisfying note. Yes, I do think it sucks a little bit that they wussed out and didn't just outright kill Batman, but at the same time, it works for the character and it works for the story, and that's just a minor little nitpick. Because I feel like Batman should have absolutely died at the end of this one. Because I feel like it would have been a perfect way to end the arc with his character. But instead, he fakes his death, and now he's trying to keep Gotham safe by training the next generation with the help of his new Robin. So, yeah, it's still a great story. I just think it could have ended a little bit better. That's just my own personal preference. But yeah, the story is still fantastic here. And the fight with Superman and Batman, leagues better than the freaking crappy one from the live-action movie. Like, seriously. Dawn of Justice, I was nice to Dawn of Justice in my review, and I did say that fight was good, but this one knocks it out of the freaking park and stomps all over that fight in every single way, shape, and form. Through both the action itself, the way it's shot, the way it's all put together, and the way that it ties into the actual story. It's done a million times better here. You know, just like everything else in the DCEU that fails to even come close to surpassing the animated stuff. Just saying. But yeah, story is great. Just like the first part. Okay, now I guess we'll go to the trivia, because I've been doing this for these reviews since I'm such a huge fan of this movie. So, here's some trivia for you. I have a good bit of trivia, so just sit back. During the fight between Superman and Batman in Crime Alley, a framed picture of Christopher Reeve's Superman can briefly be seen in one of the rooms. As someone who loves those first two Superman movies, that was a nice little Easter egg. Although never directly stated, Gordon's wife in this story is Sarah Essen, the woman that he has an affair with in Batman Year One. He calls her Sarah while sitting in bed next to Barbara. I'm surprised. I didn't think that had continuity with this movie, but apparently it does. Interesting. Throughout the entirety of the film, Superman is never directly addressed as such. When other characters speak of him or refer to him, they either use Clark or pronouns such as him or other terms, often used to describe Superman's public image. That's a nice little detail. Not to mention through the entire first part of the movie where Superman first shows up, as Batman's trying to interrogate this scantily clad Nazi gun woman. Yeah, that's straight up nudity, and I don't know how that did not get this movie an R, but what do I know? And his entire appearance in that scene is in complete silhouette. And it works really well for the story they're telling here. The Batmobile from 1989, yep, I saw that one. When Batman is in his armored suit testing everything out, I immediately, right to the left of that screen, like Batman's here, I'm looking over here, the 89 Keaton Batmobile is sitting right there. You guys should know by now, if you've seen my other Batman reviews from my other channel, how big of a fan I am of Michael Keaton's Batman, so seeing that absolutely made me smile. I love that. Michael Emerson reportedly based his performance as Joker on comedian Paul Lynde. I don't even know who that is, sorry. Commissioner Gordon's wife Sarah was never actually illustrated by writer or artist Frank Miller in the source material. When she finally appears at the end of the series, she is in silhouette. Neat little detail. After the Joker is allowed in his day pass to go on a talk show, the one Dr. Wolper brings him to is called the David Endocrine Show. In the comic book, the host of the show is clearly drawn to look like David Letterman, and the musical director is drawn to look like his real-life counterpart, Paul Schaefer. The actor playing David Endocrine is Conan O'Brien. I thought he sounded familiar. For obvious reasons, the look of the character was changed. O'Brien later took over the late-night show after Letterman in 1993. Weird how these movies kind of tie into real life sometimes, isn't it? Although his name is never specifically said, the character design and voice of the President of the United States is clearly patterned after Ronald... Okay, I thought it was Ronald Reagan, but I need to wait to actually get confirmation. But yeah, clearly patterned and modeled after Ronald Reagan, because of the time period this movie takes place in. One of the guests announced for the Dave Endocrine Show is famed sex therapist Dr. Ruth. In the original miniseries, Ruth is killed by Joker when he kisses her with poison lipstick. I don't know why they did that, but I don't know why they skimmed over that, but you know what? It's fine. Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice based much of its material from Frank Miller's graphic novel Dark Knight Returns, such as the armored Batsuit, an older version of Batman, etc., etc. Yes, it did, and then completely freaking failed at it. Moving on. When Superman first flies into Gotham City, he flies past a newspaper stand. Other than the newspapers disturbed by the wake of his speeding through, the comic book titles on sale are The Brave and the Bold 28, which introduced the Justice League, The Flash 123, featuring the Golden Age Flash Jay Garrick, and introduced the concept of alternate Earths to the DC Universe, Earth 2 encompassing the characters from World War II to 1959, Captain Carrot and his amazing zoo crew number 12, an alternate Earth populated by sentient animals, previously Earth C, but now designated as Earth 26. The title character was the Earth C/Earth 26 version of Superman, Shade. The Changing Man, number 6, created by Steve Ditko. The Warlord, 67, created by Mike Grell. Amazing Man, number 1, created by Bob Razakis and Stefan DeStefano. Yeah, they love throwing in their comic references. During the scene in Gordon's apartment, a number of photos can be seen on the wall. The largest of these is an image of James Gordon with his first wife, Barbara Gordon, and their son, James Gordon. As seen in the earlier another Batman Year One connection. Another of the photos appears to be of his daughter, also named Barbara, as Batgirl. Grey Griffin, who voiced Sarah Essen Gordon in this movie, has played the wife of James Gordon before in another Year One connection. Okay, I'm convinced Year One takes place in the same timeline as Dark Knight Returns now. There's no way that all of these facts can't just be plain coincidence. The Batcopter has a design that resembles the Russian Hind helicopter. This draws a contrast to Superman, who is fighting the Russians. Nice little bit of detail. The war-torn island of Corto Maltese is a fictional country that author Frank Miller first introduced in The Dark Knight #3 in August of 1986. It has since been referenced in numerous DC properties including Batman 89, Smallville, and Arrow. The name is based on an Italian series of adventure comics featuring the titular character, created by Hugo Pratt in 1967. Interesting. Although Frank Miller's graphic novel The Dark Knight Returns was originally adapted into okay, we already went over that fact. In the early 2000s, the Hughes brothers were offered the chance to... we went over that too. Yeah, and the rest of these I think are just facts from the first part. But yeah, there's a lot of fascinating trivia on this movie, so... Definitely that. Here's the animation error. The automated missiles set to target Superman during the final confrontation have a misspelled readout, X-ray detected. Okay, that's a funny kind of goof. Oh, wait a sec, I forgot to point this out. The Dark Knight Returns Deluxe Edition combines both parts into a single 148-minute movie, however, it cuts out the newscast part from the opening of Part 2. Huh. I don't know why they cut that out, that's a good scene. Okay, let's finish off with some quotes. Yes, we absolutely need to talk about this. This is one of Batman's, please excuse my language here. This is one of Batman's most badass lines. When he's standing over Superman victorious, and this is what he says. I didn't have to go easy on you. A different binding agent, a stronger mix. I want you to remember that. I wanted to remind you to stay out of my way. In all the years to come, in your most private moments, I want you to remember the one man who beat you. Oh, that line's so badass. Like, such a good line. Okay, now, alright, this one I have to do. This is Batman and Joker's little back and forth when after Joker realizes that he made Batman cross the line. No more. All the people I've murdered by letting you live. I never kept count. I did. I know, and I love you for it. It's finally here, isn't it? The moment we both dreamed of. Oh, don't tell me you're gonna fall asleep before we finish. You have gotten old, haven't you? Not quite how I imagined it, but we can still end on a high note. You're in trouble now. Go ahead. Say this has never happened to you before. Shut up. Make me. Come on. Finish me. Doesn't matter. I win. I made you lose control. And they'll kill you for it. See you in hell. And then he twists his own neck and kills himself. Dark. Vicious, brutal, just dark. What's another really good one? Another Batman Superman line. You say you answer to some sort of authority. They only want me dead because I'm an embarrassment. Because I do what they can't. What kind of authority is that? It doesn't matter. It's their world, and they won't stand for you anymore. If it isn't me, it'll just be someone else. Really? Who'd they send after you? And he pretty much puts it together right away. It was Green Arrow. This one. When Bruce and Oliver meet up to make the plan to neutralize Superman. What is it you want, Oliver? A piece of him. The schoolboy. I always knew it would come down to the two of you someday. The world's not big enough for both of you. It doesn't have to be a big piece. Just count me in for old time's sake. This one I have to do. This is the line when Joker gets the Batarang through his eye. This one's great. After Batman throws a Batarang in the Joker's eye, partially blinding him, not to mention he also throws one into his left arm and his shoulder. Batman's vicious in this. Are you out of your mind? I'm through playing Joker. Be still, my heart. Even though he's partially blinded and bleeding profusely, he still has time to make a joke. That's classic Joker. Okay, last one. Last quote I'm going to do, and then I'm going to talk about my overall thoughts on both the movies together. This is the one when Bruce and Superman meet up just to talk. It's Bruce and Clark, not Superman and Batman. This is shortly after Superman interrupted Batman's interrogation of the scantily clad, very obviously nude Nazi woman. They never really give her a name. You cost me hours of work last night, and I'll get right to it. You have to go back into retirement. You're upsetting too many people. Why do you have to be like this? You played right into your hands last night when the parents groups came after us. The subcommittees. You're the one they pointed to. You act like a criminal. We are criminals, Clark. We always have been. You're still one too. Only difference is you have a boss. And you answer to no one. We almost had this talk 10 years ago, when you wouldn't go along with the deal we made. Everyone else agreed. Diana went back to her people. Hal left the planet. And Oliver. Did he agree? That's not how I wanted that to go. He was all torn up about it, too. He made it necessary, like I'm about to. Do you even remember why you retired? I remember. Look, either shut it down, or one of these days someone with authority is going to tell me to come stop you. And when that happens, may the best man win. I have to go. We'll finish this later. No hurry. The lines and writing in this movie is so good. In both these parts, the writing is so good, but in the second part especially, the writing's even better. And again, I am shocked, despite the massive gritty brutality that's in this movie, that it's not rated R. Somehow, someway, this is still PG-13. That shocked me. But anyway, I think I've discussed everything I can about this movie, as in part 2 specifically. Now I'm going to talk about my overall thoughts on the movie itself as a collective, and give my final verdict, and then just a huge thank you for watching all these reviews, I guess. Overall, this is a fantastic movie, one of my favorite Batman movies, and arguably one of the greatest comic book movies of all time. It's incredibly well written, the voice acting's top-notch, the story is excellent, the writing is sharp, the brutality is used in great effect for the story, there's great imagery, fantastic animation, excellent fight scenes, a great narrative, great characters, deep motivations. I could go on, and then the numerous Easter eggs I pointed out while going through the trivia. I literally could go on and on about this movie, but I think I've already done so because it's probably already been almost an hour by now, so I'm just going to leave it at this. If you're a Batman fan, you are simply required to watch this movie by any means necessary, whether it's watching both of them separately or watching the combined deluxe edition cuts. You need to see this movie if you haven't already. It is one of the essential Batman films, and up to this point, I'd say the best movie out of the DC Universe pantheon thus far. It is an incredible movie. It is an adult, gritty, mature movie. It is a fantastic Batman movie, a great superhero movie, and is so faithful to its source material that it makes every single other adaptation, both live action and animated, look obsolete by comparison. Dark Knight Returns is simply a masterpiece, plain and simple, and they did an amazing job adapting it to a feature film. And everyone brought their A game. No one slacked off. No one half-efforted anything. They brought their all for this, and they did a stellar job. I seriously could not have asked for a better movie to end off DC Live, because this movie is just fantastic, masterful. And if you haven't seen it yet for whatever reason, go watch this movie right now, whether it's on HBO Max or buying the DVDs. Go watch this movie right now. My final verdict for Batman The Dark Knight Returns as a collective, like I said, not doing both parts separately. I'm not putting those as separate scores. It doesn't seem fair. Final verdict for Batman The Dark Knight Returns is going to be a full, undeniable 11 out of 10. One of the best Batman movies ever made, one of the best comic book movies ever made, and one of the greatest animated movies I've ever seen, period. It is a phenomenal, fantastic, outstanding movie based on an amazing comic book that you absolutely need to watch by any means necessary. Streaming, DVD, whatever. Watch this movie right now. And with that, we have ended off and finished our first ever DC Live. I want to thank you guys so much for watching all of these reviews. This was a lot of fun to put together. And hopefully next year I'll have all 31 days. This year I don't have that luxury because I kind of have a special other thing coming up. So, yeah, all I can say is thank you for watching all those reviews. Thank you for understanding and enjoying hearing my thoughts on these. And this was a great experience, especially after how severely disappointed I was last month reviewing the entire DCEU on my other channel, aside from Shazam. Shazam's always going to be awesome. This was a lot of fun, and it was great to finally talk positive about DC for once. Will the positivity continue? I don't know. Yes, I know that this month we have Justice League Warworld coming up, but I'm not going to do that as a DC Live review because I don't feel like that would really be fair because, A, most of these recent movies that DC has released, I've been doing as just normal reviews. And 2, because it'll be a new release, I don't want to go into full spoilers or in-depth analysis. So, I'll probably re-review these in the future, but I'm specifically talking about the new releases that are coming out this year. Like, I already reviewed Justice League Ruby. You guys loved that review. Still one of the highest rated movie reviews I've done on this entire channel. And Justice League Warworlds is coming around the corner. I am going to watch it, and I am going to review it the day it comes out, but I am not going full in-depth analysis because I want you guys to see it for yourself. So, yep, that concludes DC Live. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully next year we'll have all 31 days, and I won't have to go on another freaking trip in the middle of it, and be able to do full analysis for all the other films that we have left to go, because we still have one more movie before we actually get to the connected universe stuff with Superman Unbound, and then starting with Flashpoint Paradox, the rest of them are pretty much all connected until the reboot universe comes around, but we'll get there when we get there. But the point is, thank you guys so much for watching all these reviews. I've had a great time making all of these, despite the copious amount of work it took. And I can only hope that maybe next year I can go even bigger and better with it. Thank you guys so much for watching all these reviews. Thank you for watching this review. I'm Jack Small of Animation Station. And until next time... Oh, wait. I almost forgot. You guys know how I said around the halfway point of this marathon that we'd be taking a look at another certain pair of comic book heroes? Well, that time has come. I'm not going to say who it is, because instead, I think I'm just going to go and grab a little something. Just wait right here. Alrighty. And with this, I not only announced what the next month is going to be, and I think you guys are going to love this one, but I'm also going to end off DC Light with this. So, I have literally nothing more to say. So, I'll see you guys next time for our next marathon. And this one is going to be quite radical.